Ciao and welcome. There are three things I try to do to live a good life. Number one is to eat healthily. Number two is to exercise regularly. And the third one is also to try and get a good night's sleep. Lots of people will say to me that eating healthily is expensive, is pricey. Healthy food is very, very expensive. It's not possible. That is rubbish. Healthy food is not expensive. What is expensive is unhealthy food and unhealthy lifestyle. I've lived by those three golden rules. I've called them my three golden rules for years. And I'm not necessarily the healthiest in the world, but I think we do okay because we have a balanced diet. And what I mean by balanced diet is not a vegetarian diet. I'm not vegetarian, neither is Julie. We eat meat, we eat fish, we eat vegetables, but we eat things in a balanced way. And that is very, very important because your body needs all sorts of minerals and vitamins and proteins. And to just stick to one type of diet, in my view, I'm not a dietitian, is not healthy. However, in this video, I want to talk to you about the three things I do and while I'm cooking this very simple and easy and healthy cauliflower pasta, which is a Sicilian recipe. Did you know, for example, that the main killer nowadays is heart coronary diseases, people dying with a heart attack, and often it's because they are overweight or because of fatigue. And you can see where I'm going, the food they eat, and we are what we eat. There is no doubt about that. The second killer is lung diseases related illness, cancer, and so on, also asthma. And again, you will see that there is a strong correlation with what we eat. And I'll tell you a little bit about the third one in a moment, because actually it will be quite surprising to hear. Then we talk about exercise. I exercise very, very regularly. I go running twice a week. I also go for bike rides, and I try and keep active in the garden. I don't do weights and things like that because I'm not the sort of person, but I do plenty of DIY and plenty of garden work to keep my upper body relatively strong. I'm not muscly, I'm not a bodybuilder, but I think I do okay. And why is that important? So many reasons really, if you think about it. Firstly, the benefits of exercising are tremendous. You will get a better night's sleep, but also you will be more relaxed, especially after an exercise class. And treat it a bit like an investment for later life. If you think about older people, frail older people, very often they will have a fall and they will end up in hospital. And unfortunately, they will end up dying in hospital because they might catch a disease which they will pick up in hospital. And the reason why I end up in hospital in the first place is because they will break a bone because the bone structure is very, very weak. So when I say treat it a bit like an investment, it's very much that, actually, an investment for your later life. You exercise when you're younger, you keep active, and you keep your bone structure also strong and your muscles, and you will find it in later life. And then I spoke to you about a good night's sleep. To me, that actually, ironically, is just as important as the other two. All the decisions we made in life are made one way or another by your brain. And if you think it's so simple, really, if you get a good night's sleep, you're so much lucid, so much more aware of what you're doing. And a good night's sleep also will give you mood, give you much more happiness in terms of how you approach your day and when you go to work. When you're tired, you're miserable, aren't you? I am miserable. And the occasion when I have not had a good night's sleep, I can tell because actually I am really, really grumpy. And Julie will be the first one to tell me. And it's incredibly important also for your body, for your mental health, and for your physical aspects and so on. So good night's sleep, but you will get a good night's sleep if you eat healthily and if you exercise. While I'm rambling on about health and exercise, I am actually chopping a cauliflower in tiny little pieces, and you will have also noticed that I have kept some of the good looking leaves, and I'm also chopping those in tiny little pieces. I'm keeping those because they're very good for you, they're full of fibre, there is nothing wrong with them, there is no reason why you should throw them in the bin, and equally well I'm also doing something similar with the little trunk. So again, I'm chopping in little pieces. So I'll move all of these in my colander, and then I'll give them a quick wash, and I'll come back to you. So what is the third highest reason why people die? And that I did say that will surprise you. That is the side effect of medications, believe it or not. All of those tablets we keep popping in because we don't feel well, or because we need a treatment to something, because we haven't exercised, or because we didn't eat properly. It's ironically that what is supposed to be making actually us feel better eventually kills us. I'm Italian and I come from Sicily, and as I was growing up I always thought that I was a little bit unlucky to be Sicilian, because Sicily actually is quite a poor island, and the food we ate was always very simple and very basic to an extent. Of course we also had some rich food at times, but no, there wasn't a lot of money going around. And my mum and dad always used to feed us with plant-based products, a lot of cauliflower, broccoli, beans, whatever the land produced at the time of the year. And as a young lad, I always thought that I actually wasn't very lucky for that. And it's not until actually I grew up and I start appreciating the benefit of plant-based food that I realized actually how lucky I really was to be given that great chance in life to make a good start with my diet and so on. And it really breaks my heart when on the television I see children starving, especially in African countries where there isn't enough food, and they have got no shoes, and they're just wandering around, sometimes begging for money and so on. It's terrible. But also what it breaks my heart is when I see children in hospital in richer countries because of their diet and the food that they've been given by their parents and the lifestyle. And that is actually conversely the opposite polarized problem to those countries where children haven't got anything to eat and they're starving. Which means that our children think that they can eat whatever they like, whenever they like, because at the end of the day, all they need to do is to pop in a pill or go and see the doctor and magic will be sorted. So that completely creates the wrong mindset, because from a very young age, our children are growing up with the concept that actually getting well or growing well is just down to taking some medications. Then those children will become teenagers, and teenagers will become adults. They'll go to university, and they will not know how to cook a meal because they don't have actually had any exposure to that. And they will continue eating junk food. Not only, but that will also be coupled with drinks and alcohol. That's what young people tend to do. And then they will get into their 30s and 40s and have a family, and the whole cycle will start again. And we have a problem in this country in the fact that our NHS is kind of not working very well. And we always blame the politicians, we always blame the doctors, we all blame the system. But we don't actually look at ourselves, that it's our fault. Because actually the reason why the NHS is in the state it is because there are too many people ill. And the reason why they're ill is because they're not taking care of themselves. And the reason why they're not taking care of themselves is because they do not know how. And it's wrong, actually. We can do something about it earlier on in life by making sure that our children are shown how to cook a good meal, making sure that our children know what good and bad is, making sure that our children do exercise, and then when they get to a point where they hit adulthood, they will know how to deal with life much, much better and live a long and healthy life. The big disease that people are scared of is cancer or tumor or anything similar to that. And there is this misconception that those are attributed to the genetics of your family tree. Totally wrong, actually, because there are plenty of studies and evidence that shows that only 30% of people actually who are diagnosed with cancer is likely to be down to genetics, which means that actually 70%, think about it, 70%, more than twice 30, is actually attributed to lifestyle. So that means the way we eat, the way we exercise, and the way we sleep. So that gives you so much power to actually really make sure that you live a very good life, and also ensuring that your children and your friends can do the same. I'm not a chef, by the way, and you will know that. I'm an accountant actually, but cooking is something I've done for many, many years, and I absolutely love it. And don't get me wrong, we also have the odd naughty meal, and we occasionally also treat ourselves to something which is a little bit more less healthy, but that is the occasion, not the rule. And very quickly we go back to our diet, healthy diet, which is very mostly Mediterranean, of course, because I tend to cook Mediterranean. But when I launched the channel TortellinoTime, I actually did that with two objectives in mind. One is to promote Sicilian and Italian food, because I strongly believe, especially Sicilian food more than Italian food, that is really, really healthy. It's got some naughty food also, but in the main it's really, really healthy food. And the second reason why is because I want to try and in my little to help people in understanding the benefit of healthy eating, and through TortellinoTime is what I am trying to do really. So you will often hear me talk about get your children involved in the kitchen, cook this cake or cook this dish for children. I've got even a playlist called The Young Ones, where I've put together food that children will like and love, because I want children to actually have a chance in life to eat properly and to start from a young age. And the reason why that bothers me is because I strongly believe that if they start young, then that will be the case in future life. I've got 3 children. I've got 2 boys and a girl, Alessandro, Roberto and Gabriella, and they all learned to cook in the kitchen, both with Julie and I, from a very, very young age. And they all now live independently, and they cook from scratch every meal they do. Occasionally they will also have a takeaway, of course they do, they are human after all. But when they were at university and they were cooking meals from scratch, their friends were amazed, and they said, where did you learn that? And they were looking at them and said, what are you talking about? This is normal. To them it was normal to know how to cook, because we brought them up that way. And isn't that wonderful really? It creates independence, but also it gives you the sense of satisfaction of cooking something from scratch and making it your own. And don't get me wrong, we are not perfect either. We, as I said, have fish and chips occasionally, maybe once every other month, or also the odd takeaway. I mean, 3 or 4 times a year we might have a Chinese takeaway. And you do need that diversity in life to ensure that you do enjoy life. But I'll tell you one thing, what really bothers me, and maybe I'm a bit old school, is when I go to London or Manchester or Liverpool, one of those big cities, even Norwich now, I live near Norwich, not so much in Norwich though, and the streets are full of delivery people on bicycle or motorbikes or on 3-wheelers, full of pizza boxes or takeaway boxes. Literally has become an industry where people ring, and I don't really remember the name of the companies, and even if I did, this is not about slagging anybody off, of course, but the amount of people that actually are delivering food to families, children, I don't know, it's incredible, it's incredible, it's amazing, and that is food that actually you can cook at home. Why we become so lazy? And I often talk about easy because it is easy, but actually easy, as I said in another video, makes us stupid. And you can see why, because actually if you are relying on somebody else cooking the food for us, A, we do not know really what is inside the food, and trust me, they're not going to be putting the genuine ingredients that you will be putting in your food, but also you are perfecting the skill of making your own pizza or making your own Chinese dish, if that's what you fancy. And there is so much available on the internet, on YouTube, not just my channel. There are millions of channels where you can actually Google and learn very, very quickly how to do something yourself. So give it a shot. Hopefully I'm not boring you to death today, but in the spirit of this conversation, I'm cooking, as I mentioned before, a very typical Sicilian dish. This is cauliflower pasta, it's only just a few ingredients. You'll have seen me chopping the cauliflower in small pieces. This is a small head of cauliflower which weighed 400 grams. And as you saw me, I've also added the leaves. I try not to generate any waste if I can avoid it. Then I chopped an onion and I put it in, and I topped it up with hot water, and I've put some pepper, but also a vegetable cube, and it's now been boiling for about 20 minutes, and I leave it to gently and calmly boil for another 40 minutes, so the total cooking time will be 1 hour. Here I've also got some pasta. These are called ditalini, typical pasta that we would use in Sicily for this recipe, but you can use any short pasta you like. You can also use farfalle at a push, or conchiglie, or if you want, you can get some spaghetti and break in little pieces about 1 centimeter long, and you can use those. But I will leave the pasta until 10 minutes before that is ready, so that I can cook and then mix it together. And I will complement it with a little parmesan at the end. So you can see this is a very, very simple recipe. And as I said, as a young lad, I used to feel that I was hard done by. But as an adult, I know actually that I was really, really lucky to be able to eat food like this. And I'll see you in about 40 minutes once this is cooked, and I'll show you what the pasta will look like then. And do you have a view on the subject, by the way? I would be interested to hear if you do. Julie and I, we put it in the comments if you do. Julie and I were having this discussion last night, and we both agreed on the fact that, of course, the added dimension is that, of course, people live considerably longer now than they did 50, 60, 100 years ago. And that is true. And clearly there will be more strain on the National Health Service because those people will require help. But there's a difference though. Living longer is not the issue. It's living longer, in my view, and Julie's view, living longer and in an unhealthy way and being ill. Because really, if you are living to your 80s, 90s, 100s, but the last 20 or 30 years of your life are miserable because you are ill, because you constantly have to go to the hospital, because you're not well, that is not quality of life. So actually, it's not the right measure really. The right measure is living longer but healthily. And there should be no strain on the National Health Service if actually older people were able to live their life in a way that was independent. Whereas actually we are in a case, not just in the UK, Italy is the same, and Europe is the same, and this is actually a worldwide pandemic, if I can call it a pandemic, where lots of care homes are full of people who actually are totally dependent on staff, and often they are bedbound, and that is really, really horrible. And this is something that we, our generation, and our children can change for future generations. Anyway, back to our recipe. You've noticed that I put some salt in my water, but I didn't salt the cauliflower because I put a stock cube. So time to put my pasta in as the water is boiling. This pasta needs 8 minutes to be fully cooked, so I'll cook it in this water for 6, and then I'll pass it over here to cook with the cauliflower for the last couple of minutes, and then I'll finish cooking it in there. So have a look at the packaging of whatever pasta you're using, and take away a couple of minutes from your total cooking time, and then finish cooking it here. And by the way, in case you're wondering, the reason why I'm cooking the cauliflower for a good hour is because this recipe extracts all of the goodness and flavor from the good flour in the water. And then by the time I put the pasta in for the last couple of minutes, the pasta will also absorb some of the flavor, and it will be absolutely delicious. It's one of those things that you need to leave long and slow, and you will extract most beautiful flavor. And I'm nearly ready with the pasta. Another couple of minutes and we'll be ready. So let's remove all of the water. You do not need to keep any water, by the way. No starches are required here. And I'll add it here. And I've actually used a couple of 100 grams of pasta for this recipe. And as I mentioned, I will leave it to now cook for another 2 or 3 minutes until the pasta is totally cooked, and then it will be ready and we can see what it's like. And I'm ready, and I can show you what this tastes and looks like, and I will do myself a portion. I'll get a little broth also there, and also I mentioned Parmesan cheese at the beginning. If you're vegan, by the way, just drop the cheese and that'll be perfectly good also. So cheese goes on, and one more ingredient at the very end, and I haven't actually used any at all, is a little drop of olive oil. I highly recommend it because it will complement the flavor of the cheese and everything else. Spoon, of course, show pasta, and let's have a look. Mix it all, and I'll pick some and I'll blow it. It's honestly so simple, but also so delicious and flavorful. As I mentioned, if you cook it long and slow, the cauliflower will release lots of flavor and is incredibly healthy. So I will leave you with one last thing. Remember, if you have a balanced diet and you eat well and you exercise, you will sleep well, and you will live for 100 years or more, but not rotten years. There will be good quality life. Arrivederci, grazie. Let me know what you think about this recipe. If you try, I'm sure you'll love it. See you later. Bye.